Welcome, impactful parents. Today we're going to talk about the double standard between what makes a good mom versus what makes a good dad. Hello, my name is Christina Campos, and I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to stay one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school, and today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So, welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have my co host with me, Rodrigo Bravo. Rodrigo is a co parenting mediator out of the state of Texas. He's a parenting coach and he's a dad of two boys. Rodrigo brings a dad's perspective onto the Impactful Parent stage to give you even more expertise and an added perspective on our parenting topics. Thank you for being here, Rodrigo. Our topic of discussion today is a video that I got off of TikTok, and it was put out by Netflix about their one of their new series. It's called The Marriage Story. And this clip I thought was really impactful, and it got me thinking. So I need to share it with you. Let's roll the tape.
When you do this for real, don't ever say that. People don't accept mothers who drink too much wine and yell at their child and call him an asshole. I get it. I do it too. We can accept an imperfect dad. Let's face it, the idea of a good father was only invented like 30 years ago. Before that, fathers were expected to be silent and absent and unreliable and selfish. And we can all say we want them to be different. But on some basic level, we accept them. We love them for their fallibilities, but people absolutely don't accept those same failings in mothers. We don't accept it structurally, and we don't accept it spiritually, because the basis of our Judeo-Christian whatever is Mary, mother of Jesus, and she's perfect. She's a virgin who gives birth, unwaveringly supports her child, and holds his dead body when he's gone. And the dad isn't there. He didn't even do the fucking. God is in heaven. God is the Father, and God didn't show up. So you have to be perfect, and Charlie can be a fuck up, and it doesn't matter. You will always be held to a different, higher standard. And it's fucked up, but that is the way it is.
I'm going to say that when I picked it out, I knew it was going to be an amazing conversation with you. But yesterday, I had one of these days that just makes talking about it like my mind blown, because just yesterday I was doing everything for everybody. And I'm a single mom, and I'm sure their dad is busy, doing his thing. But I'm doing everything. And at the end of the day, I was so tired. I had woke up by 6:30 in the morning to take my kid to school, and it was now at least 8 p.m. at night. We're recording this right before Halloween, so I was trying to make sure that the kids still had like pumpkins to carve, like all the things like on top of our normal busy schedule, that we can celebrate Halloween and be ready for that. And oh man, and then the breaking point, my son called, my oldest son, who does not live in Colorado where I am. He is going to school in New York, and he needed me. And I was so depleted at the time. And I was in the middle of trying to carve pumpkins and trying to give all attention to everybody that was there. And here's my son saying, "Hey, can you walk away from that? Because I really need to talk to you." And I was the worst mother to my son. It was that I tried, but by that point, I was so depleted with my day, and I was just couldn't hear. I couldn't really hear him. I couldn't really be present for him the way he needed me to show up. And I was kind of short in my speech and like, just do this, and not really listening. I left that conversation with my son feeling absolutely horrible. And it goes back to this, that I was trying to be so much for everybody all day long, that at the end of the day, when I had wanted to be there for my son, I just couldn't. And I wonder, as we talk about double standards today, because I know this is such a common thing for moms all over all over the world, all the time. This happens. What I have my day yesterday. That gosh, what if things were different? What if I didn't feel like I had to be there for everybody and do all the things and make everything perfect, especially as we enter this holiday season? This feeling that this lady's talking about, where women have to elevate and make sure that Thanksgiving is amazing, make sure that Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday you celebrate in December is flawless. And women are in charge of making the magic happen in their household. And it's on top of everything else in these couple of months that I hope that when people hear our conversation today, that it just opens our eyes a little bit to being able to give us some grace, because I really needed that yesterday. I ended up going to bed feeling really crappy and calling my son this morning and apologizing to him. When really there really probably shouldn't even anything really I needed to apologize. I tried my best, but I just couldn't show up for him. So, I hope other moms can take some grace out of this conversation today. Now, Rodrigo, I just was talking about my own personal experience, but how do you perceive societal expectations placed on mothers compared to fathers when it comes to parenting? And what I mean is, like, what parts of parenting do we hold mothers to a higher standard than dads?
Yes. Yes, and on all at every single level, basically, mothers are expected to do what they're expected to do, while fathers, just for meeting the bare minimum, are often said, "Oh, he's such a good dad," and "Oh, what a lucky you're so lucky to have him as your co-parent," or "You're so lucky that he's a good dad," and this and that. It's unfortunate, and it does play into the legacy of historical roles among the parent set, right? Especially if you look in history, where mothers are seen to be the more of the nurturer, right? The ones that are supposed to be taking care. It's their job, per se, right? That they're supposed to be that way. You only really hear about the bad mothers, and I think that's the kind of indicative of how society says, because mothers are expected to carry that role. You carry you set those expectations on yourself. You
Oh,
admitted so
really?
much. Yeah, yeah, you did. And I think this morning when you talked to your son and you apologize, I think that's the right thing to do, because you realize, hey, I can't do everything, and if I can't show up, that's okay. I tell my moms that all the time. Every single time I say, "Look, you're doing your best. Take a day off, do what you got to do, but you're fulfilling your capacity." Um, but society does have a very skewed view as to the expectations that are required from each parent. Anecdotally, right? When I was young as a father, it was crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna cut it any. It was crazy how how many props, how many compliments, how dope of a father I was, and I was doing the most basic shit. I'm talking about just like taking them out to eat. Hey, look, I got my boys. Post a picture. Back then it was MySpace or Facebook, and oh, you're such a good dad. Oh my God, your boys are so lucky to have you, and so forth. And it was easy. It was easy because, again, me taking care of my boys, seeing them every weekend, doing this and that, for some reason was me doing more than what I was supposed to. When in fact, I was doing sometimes the bare minimum. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that, like, yeah, I'm supposed to pick them up. And yes, I'm supposed to feed my boys. And yes, we're supposed to spend time together. And yet,
Yeah.
like this is like basic ass shit, like I wasn't doing anything, crazy. Was I good dad? Yes, but it shouldn't be for those reasons. Those are requirements. Okay, that's like the baseline. if you're not feeding your kids, I mean, that's like real bottom of the barrel standards. But that's the way society sees it. Why? Because society would typically see like, oh, the dad is a bumbling guy, he doesn't know how to take care of kids, and he's a worker, he's not a nurturer, you can't expect him to show emotion, and him doing all this. Oh my God, what a great. So, anyways, I'll revert back to the original framing, right? That's the way society has done us. I grew up with that same perspective. Going through my co-parenting journey, it was definitely something where I didn't realize how easy I had it, to be frank with you, until my son moved in with me. And
Yes.
we shared this before. Yeah.
We have talked about that, and that
Yeah.
is a big deal about how you have that awakening, because it's that, what do they call it? It's that, space that moms have to remember, or we're supposed to remember. It's the remembering appointments and that kinda thing that's always on our mind, like the dates, the times, what is that called? I can't think of the name, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, the burden of parenthood. I've heard that
Mhm.
before. I think one of the authors, I can't remember which author, but there's a book and they say it's the constant burden of parenthood. Even when you're on a date, it's not your weekend to have your kid, and you're out there hanging. You might be thinking like, okay, did my kid brush his teeth before he went to sleep tonight with the co-parent? And unfortunately, that falls a lot on women. That falls a lot on moms when they are, it's their weekend to kind of breathe, and then the dad's taking care of them. And the first thing that the moms are doing, they're not relaxing. They're not, necessarily like chilling or anything like that. No, they're 99 times out of 100, they're okay. Did he feed them? Oh man, maybe I should text them. Oh gosh, I hope they bring the clothes. Oh, you know what? Sunday morning we got to get ready because an early morning breakfast. It's like you're not even there. It's Friday. They just left, and you're already thinking about Sunday, and so I think a lot of times, admittedly myself when I was younger, and I think a lot of men, a lot of the clients that I work with, they don't have that burden of parenthood. That's not to say that they're bad fathers either, or bad mothers in some cases. But really, what it is to say is that they don't have that constant just pressure, burden. And again, I know these words have kind of negative connotations. There might be some parent martyrs out there like, oh, it's never. It is. Okay, don't sugarcoat it. It is, because we are out here, and you're more than a parent. You're a person, and you deserve to have that trust in your co-parent, and you deserve to have a relaxing weekend. And so, just to put a final point on that, I think it's really important for fathers to understand this. They're not going to experience it until they really do have a moment where they have to take care of the child for a prolonged amount of time. Because as much as I was a constant presence in my son's lives, I was a part-time dad. It was first, third, and fifth. Every Wednesday we had dinners. I kept up my end of the bargain. Did I have them more than that sometimes? Absolutely. But I didn't have that constant pressure. And I didn't realize that until my youngest son moved in with me. And in fact, I'll even go further back. There was a time where Samuel's mom had an issue at home, and she immediately asked me, "Hey, can Samuel go live with you for a couple months?" My son was in either eighth grade or ninth grade. I can't remember, but I actually wrote a blog post about it. I have a Medium account. I write things like on occasion, and I actually have a blog post where I talk about that, where I talk about how my daily schedule was impacted, how my schedule was just kind of fluid, and like maybe I go out with somebody or I go have dinner with friends and I do this and I do that, go to the gym whenever I felt like it, drove all this stuff, and everything was just smashed to pieces. And now I just had this presence, right? Where my son was the focal point, and I had to go pick him up from practice and then drop him off. And then he would say, "Hey, Dad, can I hang out with my friends for a couple hours?" And it was just madness. And when I got done with that experience, it really changed my perspective. And so I wrote that piece And I really felt like it kind of captured that moment of that aha moment where I realized, oh shit, I've been having it pretty easy these years. Yeah.
I love that so much though, Rodrigo, and it doesn't get old. I can hear that story every time because
Yeah.
it's so I think women so much want men to understand. And then I feel like if you understand, then maybe we'd get more grace. And if we got more grace, then we'd have more grace on ourselves. Um, but because you're right, it's so overwhelming. I mean, we're responsible for the food. They're supposed to eat well when they're with their mother. With their dad, they can go out to restaurants and, you know, eat macaroni and cheese. But with mom, she's supposed to make sure that they're eating good. You know, we have to remember appointments. When the child gets sick, usually it's the mom who's like needs to stay back and miss work and be with the child. Or if the child wakes up in the middle of the night, that's usually the mom that has to get up and go and tend to the child. And moms can't have a bad day or lose their shit the same way I did, because then it's just like, oh, why is she like that? Why is she being a bad mom? It's so frustrating. But it blows my mind that dads have such a low bar and moms have such a high bar in order to be considered a good parent. And it isn't fair. One of the pet peeves that I know a lot of people say is, you know, that they'll refer to dads as babysitting the kids. And it's not babysitting, it's their kids, you know? But, I know moms talk about that a lot. They're like, "Wait a second, they're not babysitting." But that's how we view it because it seems like we're trying to, and I do think a lot of it is self-imposed, I will say that. There's the society pressure, but I do know that I put a lot of pressure on myself. I want to
Yeah.
be that amazing mother, and I have to take ownership of that extra pressure I put on myself to be everything for everybody, because that's what I want to be, everything for everybody. So, yeah, I mean, part of it, I guess, is a little bit of my fault too.
Well,
I put a
but that's just society and the constructs that we live in. I mean, you can't blame yourself for really having those viewpoints because a lot of times society's norms really fall up on us, and culturally, we are designed to be that way. Especially for Latino parents, it's always that way, right? The dad, he's cold, emotionless, works hard, provides. That's it. That's all you got to do. And the mom takes care of everything else. And it's kind of just you know it's put on us that way, and we really kind of had to fight that off and really kind of understand what we're going through. But it doesn't happen until we really have a good understanding or we go through it ourselves. Um, I just pulled up that article that I wrote. It's actually called "I Don't Know How Single Moms Do It."
Oh,
It's
really?
Yeah, that's the article, and so maybe we'll share that on the link or whatnot. But I just wrote it. I'm not like a prolific medium writer or anything like that, but I actually wrote that about 5 years ago, and it just talks about like my son having to live with me for a while, and it goes back to what a lot of parents, and I'm talking about really fathers who have this schedule or maybe even already have another partner and have another role with a family. Even then they're still accustomed to just being there, being the provider, going to work and this and that, and their other partner is the one taking care of those familial roles or what, or those nurturing roles, if you will. So even if they have somebody else, 9 times out of 10, they still don't know, they still don't get it, and to them, paying child support and showing up every other weekend is good enough. And I'm not saying that's bad or anything. Okay, don't get me wrong. All right, but it is the minimum, and it's a court ordered document. You could definitely go more, and talk to your co-parent or do this, whatever, right? I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that. But again, it's designed that way Even not through the legal system. It's fairly common, especially here in the state of Texas, that you know it's a known, or at least a perceived notion, that the kids are better off staying with their moms. A lot of times when I have cases with my clients, I tell them very clearly. I said, the state of Texas, for you to say that you're going to have, and I'm talking about to directly to my fathers, and I say, the state of Texas to say, yes, we're going to take away the kids from the mom and give them to you, that's a hard sell. That is a hard sell. State of Texas typically will always say, like, okay, we want to see the mom's fitness. It doesn't matter if you think she's this, she's that. It doesn't matter if she did that, she did this. If she's stable and she's coherent, and the state of Texas will say she's going to be the primary custodial parent, because in that case the bias works the other way around, where they say, hey, no, a child should be with the nurturer, which they deem is typically the mom. And so these roles are so baked into everything that we do, whether it's culturally, our legacies, our heritage, or even through the legal process. And so it's not really your fault, Christina. It's not really parents' fault that they feel this way. This is just the way society has really conditioned us to believe. Now, how do we change that? Well, the way we change that is just by kind of acknowledging each other, and, like you said, giving each other grace. It works both ways. If moms want dads to, or if one parent wants the other parent to give them grace, then the way you should do that is by giving them grace. If you want, your little bit more breaks, and, like, hey, let's do this, talk, communicate, and really kind of start building those walls. I mean, start building those bridges towards connection. And then you could probably, get a little bit more of what you need, which may be some days off, maybe like, hey, can you take the kids, this and that. I'll end right here. I know that when Samuel's mom called me, she really just told me, like, I need you to do this. We were at a point where our conversations were really good. We trusted each other. We had a bridge where, hey, I want Samuel for this weekend. Okay, no problem. Take him. Okay, great. Hey, I want Samuel for this weekend. Okay, no problem. We'll switch weekends or whatever. We didn't keep track. We didn't, nothing like that. And if there was something involved cost wise, I'd pay it. She would tell me about Sam, all this. We just had a great communication. So I knew when she told me that, I didn't really question it. I just said, like, okay, sure. I later found out what the reason was, but to be honest, it didn't really matter. The whole point was, like, she trusted enough in me to just say, like, hey, I need you to take care of Samuel. And I did. And I think if you are able to get to that point in your co-parenting relationship, I think that that's amazing. And I commend you for reaching that, because it is a very hard level to get to.
I wanna also talk about in ways that this double standard of parental expectations impacts moms with not only the how do I wanna say this? The stress that this does, one of the things that it does is it makes us choose between working and staying home. And this is the ultimate choice of the mother when we have our child. And unless it's pretty cut and dry and you know that you make way more money, and then it's just not financially, like, of course, it makes more sense for me to be the breadwinner. Otherwise, this choice of, do I stay home with my children or do I go to work, has so much mental load on us. It really does, and I don't know how to explain it, because a lot of times what also happens is not only, "Hey, what if I choose wrong?" But a lot of mothers will find that when they choose the stay-at-home option, it's not for them. They're not they're just not the kind of moms that wanna stay at home all the time and be a stay-at-home mom with their kids, because that stay-at-home mom environment, it's It's so not easy. It is 24/7 on, and it's very lonely. You pretty much stop talking to anybody outside because you don't have the workforce to go and have happy hours and build those relationships with other adults or even just talk to an adult during the middle of the day. Um, a lot of moms just don't like that. They can't it and it makes us feel guilty. If you are that mom, oh man, you feel so guilty
Mm,
about it because you're like, "Well, that isn't that what I should be? I should wanna be home with my kids." And I feel for parents that are in that situation where they're trying to fit the mold of the double standard and be that mom, but inside they're screaming. And that's not for every woman. I mean, I stayed at home with my kids and I actually really enjoyed it, but there were days when I felt like that. And definitely had friends who really struggled staying at home. It's just another burden on top of this, and I don't think that there's a dad equivalent, but maybe there is. Do you know of one, Rodrigo, where there's that kind of pressure?
I think the one pressure that I could maybe equate to that is maybe financial pressure.
Mm,
It's not the same, but definitely I have clients that have that financial pressure where they're trying to meet their obligation, whether it be child support or simply supporting their child beyond that level. There's this it's kind of this burden. I don't want to say burden. This pressure, if you will, of constantly trying like, oh, well, I got to do this, and they take this out of my check, and there's just this constant notion, but it's not the same. It's obviously not the same. You can create money, right? But you can't create time. Time just keeps going, and so money, you can hustle for money. I've done it myself. I've been in those positions when I was young where like, hey, I was doing what I got to do, whether it was selling CDs, slanging DVDs, going out there hustling side jobs, this and that. I did what I had to do at that point. But you can make money, you can create money, you can't create time. And I think that's one thing that a lot of moms experience. They just don't have that time. And so that's another burden that they have where they're constantly trying to fulfill things for their kids, but there simply isn't enough time during the day. And I think maybe even that happened to you yesterday or before, where you just run out of time and you're like, ah, like, I need more time, but you don't need more time because all you're going to do is fill that extra time with more stuff. This, people always like I there was an exercise a while back. I don't remember if you remember this, but there was like a thing going on. What would you do with an extra hour in the day? Right? People say, "Oh, all you need is an extra hour." Blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking about it. I said, "Oh, okay." And then I heard somebody's answer and say, "Oh no, I don't want an extra hour in the day because all I would do was just jam pack it with more stuff." Would I do more sleep? Would Yeah, everybody says that, but they don't. And so I think, when we kind of have this perspective of finances being a burden, yes, that is a burden with the kids, but it doesn't replace the other burdens or even really necessarily match the burdens that moms have or the other parent has, especially when it comes to the burden of time. And so I think that's really kind of an important kind of way of dealing with that. And the way I kind of learned it, and the way I feel parents, especially non-custodial parents, particularly non-custodial fathers, would learn it if they had to spend that time doing that. You don't really understand what, for example, you, Christina, what a single mom goes through until you experience it as a single parent. And there's just no way. It doesn't matter. You can't cut it up any other way until your kid lives with you, and you got to be there 100% every single time. And you're worried about this and worried about that. You don't understand the pressure. You don't understand that mental toughness and that constant allocation of emotional and time resource that a mom has to do or a custodial parent has to do in order to get the day right. It's really tough. Again, I've been through that. I realize that. And I think that's one of the things that I do impart, especially on my non custodial parents, particularly my non custodial fathers, that they have it easy and that it's really up to them to kind of make things a little easier for everybody involved, particularly their co parent.
You brought this up, so I'm gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna mic drop here on you. When it talks about time, you talked about moms can't get enough time. There's not enough time. We can't get it back. Oh, Rodrigo, I have 4 children, as most people know. The first 2 kids, I had when I was on the younger side. I was in my 20s, and my last 2, I was in my 30s. So I'm still raising my younger children. And I'm starting to get tired as a mom because I've been doing this for 22 years already. And that time piece is starting to get to me because of what the family demands on a woman. And it's what I'm really speaking of is that one day you wake up and you find that you aren't the woman you wanted to be at this age. But there isn't time to be upset about it because we have lots of laundry and the houses to clean and the kids to get take to school and all the things. So we don't wallow in it. But it's this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm now at this age and I thought I was going to be this. And we gave all the things that I gave up to be a mother. Things like, a bigger career, something that would have made me more money or more whatever. Um, Hobbies that I just enjoy that I don't have time to do anymore. Traveling, things I want to see, things I want to do that I don't do because I'm a mom. Or at least I should say, for me, my plan is not that I don't want to do them, it's that I'm pushing them off until, oh, but when my daughter gets old enough, then I'll do it. It's like something I have to put on the back of my mind so that I don't get resentful. But a lot of moms are resentful that we wake up one day and we're not who we wanted to be or who we thought we would be, and resenting the people that you love is comes oh, it's so hard because you just want them to acknowledge all this effort that you put in on the daily for them, for them. You would stand in front of a moving truck for any one of those little people, and you just want them to be appreciative. And you're not going to get it because that's not how kids are. And nor, I don't want to say, it's not that you don't deserve it as a woman because you definitely deserve to be appreciated. But from the kids' perspective, it was, they're like, you're the mom. You're just supposed to do this thing. You had me. I didn't pick to be here kind of thing. And so then the resentment for a lot of mothers, it starts to build. It starts to build. And you're not getting that respect or gratitude from the person that you left everything behind for. And then you just hope that one day your children will see your sacrifices and appreciate you. And it's exhausting. And I don't think a lot of anybody, podcasts included, or, they don't talk about this resentment that a lot of mothers feel because of the sacrifices that we make.
Yeah, I think I honestly think that kind of is a little bit more broader than just mothers, but I totally understand what you're talking about because moms often get this short end of the stick where um a lot of time unfortunately many times dads either provide the bare minimum or they're not even there, so it's difficult. It's difficult when you're the one having to do all this and taking care of that. That said, I'm really happy that I did go through my mental wellness journey. That helped me resolve a lot of those kind of issues with resentment and making sure that I somehow or somehow me feeling like I needed some type of payout for being a parent. I don't have that burden anymore. I certainly don't. I did everything I could. I feel like I was a great parent, a great dad. I did what I needed to do. I feel like I gave my boys a good base. Both of my boys now are older. In fact, today is Halloween, and today is my little Rodrigo's birthday.
Oh,
So yes, he is officially now 23 years old. So,
23,
oh no, I'm
20,
sorry, 24. 24?
24. Yeah.
Is
Wow.
he 23 or 24? My math isn't math. He was born in
If you
2000.
were a
So
mom,
yeah.
you would know.
It was Oh, that was good. That was good. No, no, but no, it's because I'm mathing it, right? And I've already said like he's 20. No, but he's 20. What is he? 24? One. No, he's 23, right? No,
I don't know
24.
what
He's
year was he
24. He's
born in.
24. He was born in 2000, October 31st, 2000. He's 24.
Then that would make him
I, I
24.
I don't know why my math wasn't mathing right now. Anyways, yes, my son, happy birthday, little Rodrigo. He is 24 years old today, and it's I'm proud of him. I'm super proud of him. I love what he's doing. He's doing a lot of things that I didn't get to do when I was young. And what I mean by that is really just kind of following his dreams. Whether they come to fruition or not doesn't really matter. I just want him to try. And so I've already kind of rectified any type of issues that I had regarding, hey, I did all this for you and did this and that. A big part of it is unconditional love and just saying like, hey, I did it because I love you. And when you love something or you love somebody, there really isn't there shouldn't be any conditions to it. You do it because you love that person, regardless if they love you back, regardless if they are going to be appreciative, all that good stuff, right? And so I'm getting a little deeper here. I think aside from the co-parenting, but into like mental wellness. But I think that's a really important step that parents need to take if they are beginning to feel those type of feelings, those issues, because we don't have the tools sometimes to fix them ourselves. I know that I was struggling really bad. Talking about my son, there was a point where I wasn't seeing him and I was getting denied visitation. And I was just punching myself for it. And I was just, oh my God. And I deserve this because I must have been a bad person at some point and do this and that. Da, da, da. But going through my mental wellness, I realized, like, yeah, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I went there and I tried. And I shouldn't let that burden really squish everything else in my life. And so I think that's why it's really important that we do take time out to consider our mental health, our mental wealth, and our mental wellness and make sure that we are at full strength. And if we're not, go get some help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially if you are kind of on that edge where you're thinking your kids are not appreciative of you. Um, I'll be honest with you. I think, my boys and we have a great relationship. They also tell me that they appreciate me. Hey, thanks, Dad. Da, 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 da. And it's just those little things. Do I need it? No, but I am a human being, right? And so I do want to be appreciated, right? And so they understand that and they make that small little time to make sure that I do feel appreciated whenever I do something for them. Final note, I really hope folks, when they're listening to this right now, that they take the time to reflect and try to figure that out. Hey, am I doing these things for the right reason? And whatever that reason may be, a lot of times it's love, right, for our kids. But whatever reason that may be, are you doing it for the right reason? Are you doing it, and are you abiding by the terms of that reason? Because I think that's a lot of things. That's something that folks don't realize. You're over here with these expectations of appreciation, while other folks have the expectation of you being obligated to do what you do. So in other words, you giving your kids meals, you feel like, hey, I'm giving you food, and I love you, and this is how I show you because I care for you. But then a child may say, well, you're supposed to feed me. What am I gonna do? So they kind of, and then obviously that's a child, but even your co-parent, you may say like, oh, I did this, and that, and your co-parent's like, hey, you're supposed to do that. And so there's kind of that disconnect on the expectation levels where one may think like, hey, I'm doing this for appreciation, and another person, no, you're doing that because you're obligated. You're doing it out of obligation. So, anyways, I just wanted to make sure that folks reflect on that and kind of take a little bit of time to understand the difference between the two. Because at the end of the day, we are dealing with a bunch of biases that society has constructed, that we have our heritage, etc. But we still have a way to react to those and also react to ourselves and the emotions that we have within ourselves.
Thank you so much for that, because that's exactly what moms need to do if they find themselves stuck in that. Because it's a very lonely, dark place, and it's all mental health, just like you said. So definitely go getting help. It will make you a better parent because it'll lighten that load off and make you a happier person. I wanted to ask you, do you agree with the video that our mother and father role model spiritually is that Mary and God, the way the video described? Like Mary is perfect by most definitions of motherhood. Do you think that was also a contributing factor of why we are the way we are right now in society?
I mean, we're gonna get into like a topic of religion and discussion and stuff like that, and so yes, obviously, I mean, again, this is just my opinion. This is not something I typically would share with like my clients or whatnot, right? But yes, absolutely, religion has very often had a very patriarchal bent to it. Not even a bent, a full fold on it, where women's roles have often been kind of neglected, discouraged, or minimized for the ascension of the men's role. I think that the video touches on that. I thought it was genius. I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. We're over here, absent father, quote unquote, right? but somehow, we're still celebrating that father, and and then the son, and then the mom, she has to take care of it, and then we have a stepdad that steps in apparently, and I mean, this is just a crazy little story, right? I don't, again, I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything like that, right? I'm a faithful man myself, but you have to think about it, right? It's like that must have been crazy, right? Like, hey, she's pregnant. Okay, who's a daddy? Nobody really, like, that must have been crazy at that point, right? But I think those views have been just hammered in and are part of society nowadays, where we see it all the time. I mean, and we're not even talking about, I don't want people to think we're just like, criticizing that, story, which happens to be, Christian slash Catholic, etc. Right. But this happens in all religions, or a majority of religions, where there is kind of this tendency to kind of have a heroic figure or some messiah. And I don't really recall like women getting that same role as often as men, and so anyways, it's a deeper kind of conversation, but I think what they are alluding to is absolutely spot on, because that's another context in which patriarchy, in which men's roles versus women roles are played on a way that is not an even playing field. I was mentioning to you earlier about this poem that I read very recently, and I would like to read it if that's okay. It's it's
Yeah,
it's
please.
it's not necessarily parenting, but it's definitely an alignment with what we're talking about right now. So this poem is actually called "If Adam Picked the Apple." It's by Danielle Coffin, and it's from the North Meridian Review. If Adam picked the apple, there would be a parade, a celebration, a holiday to commemorate the day he sought enlightenment. He would not speak of temptation by the devil. Rather, we would laud Adam's curiosity, his desire for adventure and knowing. We would feast on apple inspired fare, torts, chutneys, pancakes, pies. There would be plays and songs reenacting his courage. But it was Eve who grew bored, weary of her captivity in Eden. And a woman's desire for freedom is rarely a cause for celebration. So
Wow.
yeah, when
Wow.
I
That's
yeah,
actually really powerful.
well, I mean, and again, and it's really funny because you did not bring this up for me to bring that up. Okay, it's
No.
it's no, no, you kind of the video, you sent me the video, you say, "Hey, here's a great video." You sent that video, I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then I read this, online, a friend posted it, And I said, oh my God, that is like spot on. And so it just goes to show again how those views, this is a perfect example, this poem. It's illuminating how different, how disparate the image of Adam getting the apple would have been compared to the image we have now of Eve getting the apple. And so I think, and especially the final part, right, where rarely
Mhm.
do we celebrate a woman's freedom. I think that's what it really comes down to. In fact, we started off this discussion with you and your lack of freedom, where you were really kind of captive to the day, to the actions, and at the end of the day, and I'm just cutting it the way it is, right? At the end of the day, you felt like you were the one that failed, that you apologized later on, which was the right thing to do. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. We should have time, and if we don't have time, we should be able to go ahead and say like, "Hey, I don't have time," without feeling guilty, without feeling bad, without any of those burdens that come with being a good mother. Because by any stretch of the imagination, you're a fantastic mom, Christina. You're allowed to have your moments. This so
And I know I'm a good mom, and still the
yeah,
bad days get to me
yeah, yeah.
because it's that perfectionistic, I don't know, there's just no room for error in a lot
Mhm.
of motherhood expectations, at least. I don't know. When I saw the video, I never had like, it didn't even occur to me, the religion part of the influence of the stereotypes, that we have. I was and before I saw this video, I literally just kinda thought our society was creating those on its own. And then I was like, "Oh, there is somewhat of a parallel there with religion," and then with your with your poem, it just solidifies that even more that, oh man, this goes back so far. And um I do feel like things are changing a little bit now. Society's changing, but it's it's still pretty prevalent.
Yeah, I think it's just about just letting moms know, and dads too, right? But especially particularly moms, that it's okay to not be this super mom every single day, and you shouldn't be a super mom. You're more than a mom. You're a person. You're a woman. Or you're a dad or whatever you identify as. You're that person, and you're allowed to have burdens. You're allowed to have off days or whatever. But more importantly, you should be able to share with your co-parent. Like, hey, I need you to do this. Have that kind of relationship where both of y'all understand each other, and especially for the non-custodial parent, to make sure that they understand, like, hey, my custodial parent is actually doing a lot more than what I'm doing. So I need to be a little bit more graceful. I need to show a little bit more compassion, and maybe a little bit more, and a little bit more understanding, you know, when it comes to our co-parenting relationship.
Well, the religion component was just nothing that I ever saw coming before I saw this video, and now it definitely, I'm aware that that's been also a contributing factor to some of these higher expectations that I'm holding myself. And I guess the reason I brought up the video to begin with is to put on the forefront the this conversation that yes, mothers feel like this. Yes, there are so many of us that feel like we've not doing our best, and we just there's so many of us that need to go and get help and give ourselves grace and have our co-parents, our partners, have them understand what we're going through. Thank you for being here today. If you would like to reach out to Rodrigo Bravo for his co-parenting mediation and coaching services, you can email him at rodrigobravo@gmail.com. Start your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free so that you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. Download the app today. You got nothing to lose. It's a free download. So go to your phone's app store, search Impactful Parent, and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. Remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers, because also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and of course, the app. So go to theimpactfulparent.com to find out more. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help.